Hi there, my name is Tyler Mayer, and this is my team portfolio generator. So, the requirements of this project were to have classes, subclasses, and enable them to run a successful test to show our knowledge of TDD and OOP. So, here we have our tests, our different classes and subclasses, and our HTML, which our information gets written to, and our actual code. So, I will start off by showing our parent class, the employee. This class has the constructor name, ID, email, and the functions to return what is entered as this name, this ID, and this email, and the role. Subclasses, engineer, class engineer extends employee, that is creating a subclass. And when we give it its own constructors. This one also needed a GitHub, so I added that as well. And when we use super, that creates that takes in the parameters from employee, and then we have this new GitHub here. So we have the functions get GitHub and get role. Same for intern. Intern needed a school. It's using those parameters from the employee parent class and the get school parameter and its functions. Same with manager. Managers need office number is using the parameters from the parent class employee, and it has its own parameter office number as well, plus the functions. So this one's a little different. This role is always going to be manager. It's not really going to change. So I'll go to my tests. My tests are pretty simple. They test to see if we are successfully creating an employee object, an engineer object, intern, and manager object, and if it can successfully return the name. Engineer does the same thing. I forgot to add the GitHub test, which I can do later. And intern as well. I need to do a school test for this one as well, but same thing. Manager and needs the office number there too. But to run this test, we have our Jest installed. So our test running is going to be using Jest. And let's go ahead and run that. And we're all passing. So these classes are successfully creating an object and returning the correct information. So we'll go over to our index file. First of all, I installed dependencies, which include Inquirer and our file writer, which you can see right here. Calling our classes in, engineer, manager, intern. I did not call employee as you're always going to be using, each of these subclasses are always using employee, so there was no reason to really create a new employee. It's a little redundant. And then we have variables for the manager and two arrays for intern and engineer, which I will explain later. So first off, we have our inquire prompt for our manager questions. The criteria for this project was that you are a manager. So when you run the application, it's going to assume you are a manager. You're going to be prompted as the manager. So these are the first questions you're going to receive. Here, enter the name, ID, email, and office number. This should be office number, but I can change that later. And with that data, we will use our subclass and its parameters to create this variable. So this variable, instead of being blank, gets created using these the data and the parameters from our subclass. And then we have our add employee function, which runs next, which I will show later. Next, we have our intern questions. Same thing as the manager. This one obviously has school instead of office number, but we use a subclass and its parameters to store that information. And add employee, engineer, same thing. We have GitHub instead of school or office number. And again, we use that class as that variable to save our data.